Monsieur Le? The water's boiling.
A thin veil of mystery hangs over that first day on set. Something shifted the moment Sally Field walked in. What she discovered about Robin Williams didn't just change her perception of him. It altered the film forever. And that change began with a single encounter. When they first met on the Mrs. Doubtfire set in 1993, neither expected the bond that would form. She wasn't greeting a comedy guru. She was meeting a man with a hidden depth. Field, cast as Miranda, stepped into scenes opposite Williams, the wild improviser who exploded old comedy rules. But she sensed something more. That energy, electric yet gentle, set a tone few could anticipate. Williams was known for a routine: 3 straight takes sticking to the script, then total freedom. The play take, where lines twisted, voices morphed, moments bloomed unexpectedly. This method was legendary. Chris Columbus even filmed with multiple cameras to catch every burst of brilliance. For most, that unpredictability could feel overwhelming, but not for Field. She welcomed it, letting her reactions land with honesty. It's rare to see someone respond so authentically to pure spontaneity. But Field did, and that interplay made their scenes shimmer. Off-camera, the mood shifted again. Just months into filming, Field received devastating news. Her father had taken a sudden turn. She remembers being on the makeshift set, trying to hold it together. Williams noticed the change before anyone else. He pulled her aside, insisted she go home. He spoke with Columbus, restructured the shooting schedule, and wrote the rest of the day around her absence. That moment, simple, compassionate, powerful, revealed something no one expected. This comedian, who could twist laughter into tears, was also someone who bore deep empathy. On set, he introduced himself to everyone, from top-billed actors to craft service staff. He learned names quickly, made light of small quirks, bringing life to the set well beyond the camera's frame. Mara Wilson later shared that he played mime acts for her carpetbag, talking puppets appearing everywhere, making the studio feel like a playground. Even the youngest cast members, like Lisa Jacob and Matthew Lawrence, remember him as full of heart and curiosity, someone who treated everyone as equals. That day, countless crew members learned that behind the rapid-fire jokes was a man taking small, intentional steps to care. On top of that, Williams wasn't just a performer, he was a producer. That influence gave him authority to override plans when compassion called. That single face-off with heartbreak, and he chose humanity over rigid schedules. That priority wouldn't make headlines then, but it's a moment Field would never forget. Back in the scene again, Field and Williams found a rhythm. His chaos, her calm. They didn't clash. They completed each other. Every unexpected riff from Williams was met by Field's emotional intellect, and their on-screen divorce scenes became more than scripted. They became conversations grounded in real tension. That connection didn't just elevate their performances, it shifted the mood of the entire film. Dig deeper, and you find doubts scattered through the filming process. Moments when raw emotions threatened to overwhelm. But Williams allowed them to happen. One afternoon, during a high-intensity improvisation, Field remembers pausing, feeling the break in character. With eyes full of empathy, he checked in, offered a reassuring line, and let her find her space. These moments weren't part of the script. They were built in the fill of kindness. Their relationship, equal parts collaboration, respect, and friendship, changed the tone of the film. And it wasn't just Field and Williams who noticed. Director Chris Columbus admitted he was terrified at first. Terrified in the best way possible. Because Williams brought pure, live-wire talent to every take. Columbus said He documented near 2 million feet of film to capture even a fragment of Williams's fuel. That scale of collaboration only deepened their trust. Every play take was an invitation, and Field and the team always accepted. People often remember the humor, the wigs, the prosthetics, but few recall how fragile that humor was. Williams balanced comedic genius with emotional intelligence, sensing when to lean in or pull back so others could shine. That was rare and powerful. This isn't about rewriting Hollywood's memory of Williams's legendary performance. It's about revealing a layer behind the legend, discovering how a carefree comedic spirit held real heart. That depth didn't just help Field get through a painful day, it set the tone for the entire production. And that bond carried off-screen. Years later at a 90s reunion, Field and the children from the film all spoke of Williams's kindness, how he made space for vulnerability, laughter, growth. They treated each other like family. In fact, Lisa Jacob says she learned it was okay to be vulnerable from him. That ripple effect echoes even today. Jacob, now an advocate for mental wellness, credits Williams's openness for shaping her tools in life. She stepped onto that set again, but nothing felt the same. Sally Field carried more than just her script that day. She carried a heartbreaking loss. News had arrived mid-morning. Her father had passed from a massive stroke. She was near the trailer by the courtroom set, trying to steady herself while preparing to shoot a scene heavy with emotional weight. Hooked on professionalism, she refused to let sorrow steal her performance. But grief, as it often does, found a way in. Trying to act through pain, she focused on Miranda's composure, grounding herself in delivery and breath. The cameras rolled, but the world had narrowed to her father's absence. She wasn't crying yet. She couldn't afford that. But Robin Williams could see everything shifting in her posture before anyone else knew something was wrong. Without fanfare, he stepped forward and gently pulled her aside. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, his voice a lifeline amid her storm. When she admitted the truth, "My father just died," his reaction was instinctive. "Oh my God, we need to get you out of here right now." That's when he became more than a co-star. He became a guardian of her vulnerability. He quietly approached director Chris Columbus, recalculated the shooting schedule, and told the team, "Let's shoot the other scenes today. Sally needs space." Just like that, the cameras turned away from her, and the set shifted around her. Pain scenes pivoted, and the crew filled in for her. She remembers sitting, cradled by that mercy, making calls, calling her brother. Taken care of? In a moment, she felt utterly alone. It hadn't been scripted. It hadn't been planned. It just happened because he felt something was off. That responsiveness, sensitive, intuitive, it became part of who Robin Williams was for those few hours. And when the crew called wrap, she walked away cradled by his quiet empathy. Looking back, Field still describes that moment as unforgettable. There was no fanfare, no public grandstanding, just genuine care. He was very sensitive and intuitive, she shared through tears years later. That simple act of compassion felt monumental, and it changed how she remembered him forever. But his kindness didn't end with her. It echoed through the whole production. A makeup artist who'd been having a rough morning mentioned her worries aloud. Williams sat beside her, listened, and said, "I understand." She felt seen. A lighting grip, overwhelmed by deadlines, found herself smiling after he struck up a conversation about her kids. Nobody on that set could hide from his warmth, and nobody stayed the same after. He brought this same generosity to every corner of his life. From reading gently to Mara Wilson during a table read, to sending letters of support when child actors struggled. He left lasting imprints on the set and in people's hearts. Even veteran actor Al Pacino, who worked with him later, remembered Williams as one of the most thoughtful and pleasant people he'd met behind the spectacle of Mrs. Doubtfire. The wigs, the laughter, this quieter story was unfolding. A story not about comedic timing or box office, but about human connection. Recorded footage doesn't show these moments. They were tucked in between takes, out of the spotlight. But they formed the foundations of trust and heart that the film carries. We often think of him delivering jokes at 200 miles per hour, voices spinning faster than sound. But here, he shows another speed entirely. Slow, deliberate, deeply attentive. He slowed everything down for someone else. You feel that when you watch Miranda and Daniel's divorce scene with real tears, real pauses, and you know it didn't come from the script alone. Viewers may remember the boundary-breaking nature of the film, the second biggest earner of 1993, but this scene wasn't just about financial success. It was a moment lifted by genuine care, preserved in the fabric of performance. That scene resonated because real emotions drove it. Years later, Field confessed, "He should be growing old like me." That ache, there's truth there. She felt robbed of the chance to share more of her life with him. She keeps saying he hasn't left. He stays present in memory, in kindness, in tribute. And that presence isn't just personal, it's cultural. It rippled outward, touching co-stars, crew, families, strangers. This isn't merely a celebrity anecdote. It's a reminder that real leadership is empathy in action. When someone's pain breaks through the lines of dialogue, some people keep pressing on. But he paused the narrative and let her live hers. That's cinematic generosity on its deepest level. Now, as our story turns toward legacy, you'll see how that empathy shaped public perception and impacted the world beyond that set. How a moment of vulnerability sparked movements, charity, and lasting change. And how the echoes of that compassion still reach us today. They say some people light up a room when they walk in. Robin Williams didn't just light it, he set it aglow. Yet what few realized, even those closest to him, was that the same brilliance that drew people in was also what hid his most harrowing battle. The seismic shift in Robin's life during those last months wasn't loud or public. It happened in whispers, in pauses, in the silences between jokes. By 2014, the world around him had begun to dim. Career momentum faltered. His show, The Crazy Ones, a passion project meant to reintroduce his genius to a new generation, was quietly shelved after one season. A crushing reminder that even legends weren't immune to the unforgiving tide of changing tastes and shifting trends. But the disappointment on screen was only part of the unraveling. Off-screen, Robin was navigating emotional terrain far more turbulent. A second divorce had left scars that no spotlight could soothe. Though he found love again in Susan Schneider, adjusting to new beginnings while mourning old ones proved complicated. Just as he sought clarity, another shadow loomed. In May of that same year, Robin received a diagnosis that struck at the very core of his identity: Parkinson's disease. For a man whose career thrived on lightning-quick reflexes, physical expressiveness, and mental sharpness, the prospect of a slow decline wasn't just frightening, it was existential. But there was a deeper truth, hiding in plain sight. What if the diagnosis itself was wrong? What if the real culprit was even more cruel, more chaotic, and less understood? That devastating possibility soon became reality. After his death, an autopsy revealed that Robin hadn't been battling Parkinson's at all. He had, in fact, been suffering from Lewy body dementia, a rare and aggressive neurological disorder that warps memory, distorts perception, and destabilizes emotional grounding. It was a revelation that explained so much, and yet solved nothing. How could someone fight a war they didn't even know they were in? The people closest to him began to notice flickers of change that, at the time, didn't add up. His legendary improvisation would stall. His once effortless ability to transform into characters was now marked by hesitation. Small tremors in his hands, lapses in memory, rising paranoia. These were symptoms that felt like a cruel parody of the very roles he once played. Imagine losing control of the instrument that made you who you are, without knowing why it's happening. That was Robin's invisible reality, and tragically, he rarely spoke about it. The fear of being misunderstood seemed, in many ways, more paralyzing than the illness itself. He continued to show up, to interviews, to sets, to conversations, with the same warmth, the same dazzling eyes, the same humor. But behind that magnetic grin, something was unraveling. The disease moved quickly, confusing not only Robin, but also those who loved him. Some days he was lucid, even hopeful. Other days, consumed by a fog of confusion and fear. And in that ambiguity, he began to withdraw. Isolation became his shield. And here lies one of the most haunting hooks of the story. Could anyone have stopped it? Had they known what to look for? On August 11th, 2014, the world came to a standstill. News of Robin Williams' death spread like wildfire, shocking fans and peers alike. It felt unreal. How could the man who gifted the world with so much laughter vanish in such a heartbreaking way? The grief was immediate, global, and raw. But what was even more profound was the sense of collective regret. Not just that he was gone, but that he had suffered silently. That a light so bright could dim so quietly. The ripple effects of his passing were powerful. People began talking about mental health, about neurological disorders, about the hidden struggles behind the brightest eyes. Sally Field, who knew Robin not just as a colleague but as a close friend, was one of many who reflected deeply on his hidden depth. She remembered not just his zany humor, but the quiet empathy he carried with him even on the toughest days. And in doing so, she reminded us that true strength often looks nothing like what we expect. It isn't loud. It listens. It lifts. And sometimes it breaks in silence. The tributes poured in, not just from Hollywood, but from around the globe. Christopher Reeve's story resurfaced, the moment Robin disguised himself as a bizarre Russian doctor just to make his paralyzed friend laugh again. It worked. Reeve, facing an uncertain future, laughed for the first time since his accident. It wasn't just comedy. It was healing, masked as absurdity. That was Robin's gift. He didn't tell you everything would be okay. He made you feel it, even if only for a moment. Billy Crystal's voice cracked on the Emmy stage as he described the loss. He made us laugh. Hard. Whoopi Goldberg simply said it felt like losing a piece of herself. Even President Obama honored Robin's boundless versatility, an alien, a genie, a nanny, but more importantly, a spark of the human spirit. But perhaps the most telling tributes weren't from celebrities. They were from fans, strangers who pulled over on highways when they heard the news, people who grew up quoting Aladdin, Mrs. Doubtfire, or Dead Poets Society whispered their own quiet goodbyes. His roles weren't just entertainment. They were lifelines. The genie in Aladdin wasn't just a cartoon, he was freedom personified, improvised, chaotic, joyful. Mrs. Doubtfire wasn't just a disguise, it was a father's love turned into a crusade. Mr. Keating in Dead Poets Society wasn't just a teacher. He was the voice that told us to live now. Even roles like Sean Maguire in Good Will Hunting showed us that sometimes the best kind of wisdom comes wrapped in gentle humor. Robin never just played a character. He inhabited them with such soul that audiences forgot where he ended and the story began. Even today, nearly a decade later, his presence still lingers. On TikTok, new generations discover his stand-up. On Reddit threads, fans still share memories of how his roles helped them through grief, heartbreak, even depression. There's something almost supernatural in how enduring his warmth feels, even now. One wonders, did he know just how many people he saved with his laughter? And then there's the matter of how his peers have evolved since. Take Ben Stiller, one of his collaborators and admirers. While Stiller's career has spanned acting, producing, and directing, his financial portfolio is just as impressive. He's owned a rotating garage of luxury cars, including a Tesla Model S and a Porsche Cayenne. His real estate holdings are diverse, properties in Manhattan and Hollywood Hills, totaling over $35 million in value. Stiller wears Rolex and Audemars Piguet watches, owns partial stakes in several media ventures, and signed deals with streaming platforms like Apple TV+. His lifestyle includes heavy asset insurance to safeguard both his career and real estate. The key financial insight? Stiller quietly built longevity, not just by diversifying roles, but by securing ownership, something Robin never quite pursued to the same extent. It's a reminder, in entertainment, creative genius must be paired with business savvy for sustained legacy. Robin's legacy doesn't need to be rebuilt. It's already stitched into the emotional fabric of millions. But what his story urges is reflection. Behind every laugh may be a layer of sorrow. Behind every strong front, a silent plea. So, when you think of Robin Williams, think not just of the characters, the voices, or the comedy. Think of the man who turned pain into light, and wonder what kind of world we might create if we all did the same. His life was a masterpiece of contrast, wild and warm, chaotic and kind. And even though his journey ended far too soon, his light hasn't dimmed. It lives on in the characters we still quote, the movies we still watch, and the quiet empathy he modeled for the world. If this story moved you, share your favorite Robin moment in the comments. We'd love to hear it. And if you're drawn to the hidden stories behind the stars we thought we knew, don't forget to subscribe.